The Las Vegas Raiders have some serious ground to cover within the AFC West, as the Kansas City Chiefs have now won back-to-back Super Bowls, and they are now the leader within the division for the most Lombardi trophies at 4. The Raiders most definitely need to respond, and we need to become a legit playoff contender here soon if we want to just revert the situation and eventually get to where we want. That is to hoist that 4th Super Bowl for our franchise. The Raiders are in a situation where I think we're not too far off, but there's no doubt that we have some major areas needed for improvement before we can make that next jump and that next leap into being a legit playoff contender and a team that can legitimately fight to make the Super Bowl and ultimately win it. Interestingly enough, the Raiders were the last team to beat the Chiefs, and even in that first matchup, we played them extremely tough. So I think the Raiders, if we do things right in the offseason, we could be a team that matches up very well against Kansas City in the future and possibly be a team that can dethrone them next season. But in order to do that, there's some major things that need to be addressed in the offseason. And today I just wanted to touch on my ideal and my dream offseason, what that would look like for our team. And to start things off, the first thing I would want to see during this offseason is I want the Raiders to improve the offensive line situation, because no matter how you look at it, no matter what your preference is at the quarterback position, whoever we bring in at quarterback next season to start, there's no doubt that we're going to need the O-line group to improve compared to how they played last season. Now, I've looked at it via free agency. I don't see a lot of great options at the right tackle spot or the guard position, which is the two spots I really feel like we need the most help on the offensive line. For agency, I'm more probably expecting that we're going to get some depth pieces on the offensive line. Also, Andre James, our center, is a free agent, so it's going to be interesting to see what we do in terms of that. I don't know if we're going to bring him back, if we're going to let him walk. If we do let him walk, do we just possibly just move Dylan Parham to center next season? And in that case, we're definitely going to have to sign a couple of guards at least and through the draft. But when it comes to the NFL draft, there are some very interesting options at the tackle position. But so far, the main guy I'm just hoping that we can land is right tackle Talisay Fuaga out of Oregon State. Now, to be fair, I am an Oregon State fan, so I may be biased on him as a prospect, but he is already a right tackle, so he doesn't have to switch over. I'm not a big fan of drafting a left tackle and trying to convert him into right tackle or vice versa. So he already has familiarity with the right tackle position. And if you just look at him play, man, he's an absolute mauler when it comes to the trenches, especially when it comes to open up the holes in the ground game. And he most definitely fills a position of need for this team. I'm hoping the Raiders can snag him in the second round, or potentially maybe like the late first round if the Raiders ultimately decide to trade back in the first round to accumulate more picks. Currently, most draft projections have him as a top 5 tackle in this draft, so it may not be possible for us to get him in the second round if he continues to rise up draft boards. But like I said, dream offseason for me. If we can get him, I would love to get him, and if we can't, we'll just have to target other right tackle prospects. But the first need for this team is to improve the offensive line situation. Secondly, I think the Raiders in this offseason, I want us to snag one of these dominant defensive players, and most preferably one of them from the Kansas City Chiefs elite defense. We got defensive tackle Chris Jones and cornerback L'Jarius Sneed are two names I think we really should target in free agency. Now, a Chris Jones signing could just change the trajectory of this defense and really solidify it to becoming an elite level defense next season. For the Raiders, the defensive tackle spot is considered as the weak link of that unit, but if you sign Chris Jones, who is one of the best players at this position, well, now you have a dominant edge rusher in Max Crosby, a dominant nose tackle in Jones. We have Malcolm Coombs on the opposite side, who will be in a perfect position where he can just pin his ears back. You couple all this in, this defensive line could be scary next season. Also, don't sleep on the fact that Tyree Wilson could continue to improve and develop, especially going into a full NFL offseason, which will allow him to fully recover from that foot injury that just slowed him down the majority of his rookie season. Now, Chris Jones is a dominant player, and there's no doubt that he's going to cost a pretty penny, as his current market value via Spot Track has him listed at about $28.5 million per year. That sounds about right. He's going to get somewhere within that $28, $29, $30 million range. And yes, that is a lot of money. Currently, the Raiders have approximately $39 $9 million in cap space. But if we release Hunter Renfrow, which is a wide receiver I've loved, but let's be honest, he hasn't been utilized effectively the last 2 seasons. So if you release a guy like him, you save about $8 million in cap space, and that would put us right around $47 million in cap space. I would most definitely give up a Hunter Renfrow if it gave us a better chance of landing a dominant D tackle like Chris Jones. And if we sign him, Chris Jones would eat up a big chunk of that $47 million in cap space, but you can most definitely make an argument that it's worth it, as it would make this defense an elite unit next season, and also serves the purpose of weakening the Chiefs next season, a divisional rival. So it'd be a win-win in both situations. And look, there's definitely no guarantee Chris Jones is going to leave Kansas City, and there's no guarantee he'll come here to Vegas. But if he's attainable, if he's in play, I think we should pursue him heavily. But if we can't land him, then I think another guy we should target is cornerback L'Jarius Sneed. Sneed is a tough, physical cornerback who can just improve this roster as well by adding a legitimate #1 cornerback to the roster. And once again, you weaken your divisional rival by doing so. He also kind of fits the scheme we've been running. Like you said, he's a physical, tough running back that can jam wide receivers at the line. If our defensive line can continue to dominate like they did last season, that would be a good fit. So really, I think we should get aggressive when it comes to free agency on the defensive side of the football. And one of these two moves, I would love it for the Raiders to pull off come free agency. And last but not least, I want the Raiders to get their quarterback in the NFL draft. Now, who exactly? Look, I'm not sure. We can definitely debate that. There's a lot of different options you can go, and it's all just going to depend on how the draft board ends up playing out. But I strongly think that the NFL is just being run and dominated by elite level quarterbacks, and that's just shown by the dominance of Kansas City. And even the teams like the Bills, the Ravens, Bengals that haven't won the Super Bowl yet, you see that they're typically always in the mix because they have those star level quarterbacks that are dominating the league. I think at the very least, the Raiders need to get to that point where we're just a continuous year in and year out playoff team. And really the trend has been that you need that star level quarterback, and that's something that the Raiders just don't have right now. You know, every now and then you do get a Cinderella story where a late round quarterback makes a Super Bowl run. Maybe every now and then he'll win it, but for the most part, we've seen that first round quarterbacks are who dominate when it comes to winning the Super Bowl. Just look at the playoff picture this year. I believe Brock Purdy was the only quarterback that wasn't a first-round talent. And even then, just look at the San Francisco 49ers. They had a fantastic roster up and down. And I think in the Super Bowl, it kind of showed that their quarterback was a 7th-round talent guy. He didn't look super comfortable out there. He missed a wide-open throw to Deebo Samuel when the pressure got there. So really, I just think that's the way the league is trending, and I think that's exactly what the Raiders need to do in this offseason. We need to get our first-round talent quarterback, and I think that's just something that's been way overdue for us. The last time we drafted a quarterback in the first round was in 2007 with Jamarcus Russell, which was about 17 years ago, which is absolutely mind-boggling, especially in a league that just prioritizes the quarterback position so favorably. The Raiders need to take a gamble on one of these type of prospects, whether that be trading up for Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix Jr., JJ McCarthy. Look, the list goes on and on. Whoever they end up going with, I just think we need to get this young quarterback in the mix for this franchise. I don't know if the Raiders have been just hesitant and scared on trying to take a quarterback because they're scared of what might happen if they fail. Look, me personally, if we draft a quarterback, even if we trade up for a quarterback and it doesn't pan out, I would argue the situation is not going to be that much worse than what we've been living through the past couple years. Okay, you know, you trade up for a guy like Jaden Daniels or something, he doesn't pan out, you don't have a first round pick next year and a second round pick, so on and so forth. Look, let's be honest, the Raiders the past few years have not done well at all in the draft. So like I said, it doesn't really change that much for me. I mean, just look at it as going through another year like in 2021 where we drafted Alex Leatherwood, a guy who was off the team within 2 seasons and really didn't make any huge impact on the Raiders. So yeah, would it be unfortunate if we traded up and the quarterback didn't pan out? Yes, but at the end of the day, I think the upside is just so huge that we have to take a gamble at some point in the draft, and I think this is the year. And this isn't really a shot at Aiden O'Connell or anything like that, but even if you're an Aiden O'Connell fan, I still think you should still want us to bring in a quarterback in the draft to put some real pressure and competition on him to succeed. And after that, may the best man win. But The Raiders, in my opinion, need to get aggressive in this offseason because we have some serious ground to cover in the highly competitive AFC West and just the AFC conference in general with all the quarterback talent that's surrounded in the AFC. I hope head coach Antonio Pierce and general manager Tom Telesco just bring this type of mentality this offseason. I hope they're aggressive. And I hope they can just put us in a position to be a legit threat next year in the division and compete for that. But Raider Nation, those are my thoughts and opinions on what needs to happen in this year's offseason. Like I said, I think we need to be aggressive. It's now or never for the Raiders in my opinion, but let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And for anybody that's new to the channel, you guys love Raider related content just like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next one.